Thursday night on the Krueg Show, Dieter is in the house. We got a lot to discuss. Let's go right here, right now. Join us.
Come on. You can do it, Larry. I believe in you. Come on,
that
baby.
button, but it won't go. All right. There we go.
Are we off and running on the Krueg Show?
We're off and running on the Krueg Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California. I love to use those plaudits. Check out Pig and a Pickle. Get some barbecue, get some brisket. Go get some brisket chili. Say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket. Tell them I sent you. Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, Emeryville, Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. That means you have no excuses. You must go there. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. We are also brought to you by our good friends at LearnKey Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. They guarantee it. Whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or another high-demand field, they offer over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. They've been in business for 37 years. They've helped out over 200,000 students. 100 graduates every month are getting placed in fantastic paying jobs. LearnKey Upskill Academy. Consider that a gift from Kevin and I to you guys. LearnKey's Upskill Academy. The link is in the description below. I think you'll really enjoy what they have to offer. All right, we are also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Check them out down along the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania is the owner down there. Good man, and he is at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove on the Monterey Peninsula. Give him a call at 831-521-5264. Also on the 24th and the 26th, he's giving away free packs of baseball cards to everybody who comes in memory of his deceased son, Anthony Jr., who is the reason that he started Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. It's because he lost his son at a very young age, and it just so happens that the 24th is his birthday and the 26th is the day that he passed. And so Anthony is his whole reason for starting Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles was because of his son, and he will give away free packs of baseball cards on those 2 days to anybody who comes in. So check out Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles, and thanks to them for being proud sponsors of the Krueg Show. All right, we're off and running, and we're at that point where free agency is kind of come and gone for the most part, and there's still some guys out there for sure. But the meat and potatoes of free agency has already occurred, and now it's kind of slim pickings. And Nick Wagner had an interesting piece, I thought, today on ESPN.com, where he basically just kind of discusses what we've all seen so far, which is that, the Niners, as of last night, had 15 players who were traded, released, or departed as free agents. That number's now up to 17. And those players have signed for over $341 million. The Niners, meanwhile, have signed 10 free agents of their own to a $41.8 million total bill. So an average of $2.3 million per free agent, the lowest in the league. They've only fully guaranteed $4.7 million to all of their free agents combined. Compare that to 2024, when the Niners spent $334.5 million on cash, or in cash on players, the most in the NFL, well above the 255.5 salary cap, and it has resulted in this, restructuring, remodeling, whatever you want to call it. The Niners still have over $40 million in available cap space. A lot of that's earmarked for Brock Purdy. So even though free agency is not over, and even though there still are some good free agents out there, the bulk of it is done. And we're really kind of looking ahead to the draft over the next five weeks until late April. But Dieter, why don't we start tonight with, if you could make, if you could make one addition to the 49ers, either via a trade or a free agent before the draft, Who are you looking at? Who are you focusing on? Who do you think John Lynch should be looking at and focusing on?
Well, I don't know if John Lynch has the power to sign anybody in free agency of any rapport. So that maybe he should be looking here. That doesn't mean he can look here. It's got to be a defensive tackle. Now, the problem is, one, the defensive tackle market is absurd right now. And two, what you have left is not ideal. So a guy like, Lecky Fotu, is he going to change anything for you? Probably not. He's one of the lowest graded players on PFF. And while PFF isn't everything, like, they do care about run defense. They do have a stat for that, and he doesn't grade out well in that, and that's the only thing he apparently does well when I watch the tape. But he's a big guy. So how about this guy? The guy who graded out...
Lecky Fotu is who you're saying.
Thank you. Lecky Fotu. That would be it. Okay. The Jets guy. The fact that he hasn't been signed by anybody is a pretty good tell. How about Calais Campbell, who was the number 1 defensive tackle against the run last year? Now,
I think he might be gone. He might be gone because he's not listed here anymore as available. And he was listed here as available.
Signing anywhere. So the issue with Calais Campbell is he's 39 years old. So it wouldn't shock me at all if he's like, don't call. I'm done. We're good. That would make sense. I think it would take a bag and a half to get him to show up in San Francisco with the trajectory of this team, right? A couple of weeks ago, it would have been a reasonable thing to say, hey, Calais Campbell, you want a shot at a Super Bowl? Come to San Francisco. Now that's a laughable thing to say, given what's happened so far in free agency, given the quote-unquote plan for the 49ers. But I would invest in a time machine, go back and sign Poona Ford and a couple of other players.
He went to the Rams. He went to the Rams. That was a very under-the-radar pickup by Les Snead getting Poona Ford. I thought that was really strong.
I mean, he's one of the better run stuffers. I think anyone who watched the playoffs, he had an outstanding game against the Texans for the Chargers. If you watched the Chargers on national TV games, Poona Ford was everywhere. I don't need you to have Sunday ticket to understand Poona Ford's impact. And they got him for a song. They got him for like next to nothing. And he was playing for next to nothing. Jeremiah Ledbetter, a guy that I've brought up, my man Jake Hutchinson's like favorite defensive tackle. All he does is hold the damn gap. He's going for less than $2 million. I mean, the 49ers aren't even trying to bolster up a defensive tackle. They're allowing, say what you will about Malik Collins. I've said some very negative things about him. He's at least an NFL caliber defensive tackle. He should be part of a rotation somewhere. They cut him without remorse. And again, in a vacuum, like most of the 49ers decisions, it makes sense, right? He didn't really produce all that much. Some of the reputation that he garnered this year is far too becoming for the actual play that he put on the field, and he's owed some money. So, get off of it, but bite the bullet now, move on, except for the fact that you never replaced him. And now you're going into a draft needing to replace him. And while it's a great defensive tackle draft, and you can probably get 3 in this class, you need like 4 or 5, because right now you're starting Jordan Elliott and Evan Anderson, and that's laughable. I'm not saying those guys aren't rotational players. Specifically, Anderson is a rotational guy. But for those guys to be your starters and have like Kalia Davis as the backup, this is not how a team that's trying to compete for the playoffs should build themselves. The 49ers' biggest issue last year, something that a lot of water carriers love to bring up, their biggest issue was stopping the run. And they somehow got worse at defensive tackle to this point. Like, how is this a good plan? Hey, the thing that we're really bad at? Let's get worse at it and then hope in the draft we can get markedly better. Or maybe you just won't, because you have gutted yourself in the one spot that you really didn't have any slack to gut yourself. So Calais Campbell, get some money. Really, really extort them for all they're worth at this point, because he could actually help this team maybe somewhat stop the run once or twice next year. I don't see anybody else on the roster, or really anybody else in the free agent pool, that could do that.
Well, it's interesting. I'm not a big free agent guy, because I think that you're investing in somebody else's culture, somebody else's players, somebody else's problems, really. I mean, it's just totally. It's like, I'm not a big used car guy either. Maybe that's it. I'd rather buy a new car or lease a new car and at least know what, how that car's been driven and that kind of thing, as opposed to just taking on a used car and you're just taking on somebody else's habits and how they drove it, how they cared for it, blah, 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 blah. So I don't like going after free agents that don't have I kind of, we used to have a program director on the radio at KMBR before you got there named Bob Agnew. And he'd be like, only go to a call if you think that call is going to make the show fucking better. You know what I mean? It's like, don't just go to a call just to go to a call. He used to get mad at Gary all the time because Gary loved to take calls. And Gary would sprint to the worst callers in the world and kill a great segment. Just because he wanted to talk to the callers, but sometimes the callers are really bad. And so you got to know, so there was a big sign in the studio.
As you can attest to right now,
the caller, there used to be a sign in the studio that said, the callers are a tool. Use them at your discretion, like that kind of thing.
That's
awesome. But Bob was anti-callers, or at least, Gary was really pro-callers. I'm anti-free agents. And I'm only pro getting free agents that really fit everything that I want out of a free agent, which is I want somebody who's young, 26 or younger. No free agents in their 30s. Definitely no free agents past the age of 32. But I want a younger free agent. And also, I don't want to get free agents that don't have a really high ethic about them. And they have to be like self-starters, and you have to really know who they are, because it's too easy to just get paid and slough off. Football's hard. So I wouldn't go for any non-difference making free agents. And I don't see a lot of difference making free agents. The one guy that I do think is a difference making free agent, and it's in a position that I would love to see them add difference making free agent, is at corner. Because I like the idea of adding corners, because they don't have, they don't have to be up on your defense. They're out there on the island.
Talking Rasul Douglas?
No, I'm thinking Asante Samuel.
Oh yeah, okay.
Asante Samuel's 25. He plays for the Chargers. He made $1.8 million last year. He's a really great competitive player. And I've always thought he was a good player. Big fan of his, going back to Florida State. You already have Renardo, and I just think, why not? I mean, go back to, go to the Florida State well. That would be the one guy that I would absolutely be interested in free agent wise. Now, there's a couple interesting names out there that I want to float by you. One, the 49ers have the best odds of any team of signing Tyler Lockett. That surprised me. Okay. But I kind of like Tyler Lockett. I mean, he's a good route runner. He's kind of tough. He's small. I don't think he's really done. I think he could help the 49ers. I really do. I think he would make the team. I think he's competitive. What do you think of that name, Tyler Lockett?
I love Tyler Lockett. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL.
Really?
I have
he's really small.
Yeah, but all he's done is get it done his entire career. He's a game winner, man. He's an outstanding football player. It would have to be for a very specific role, though, and it's not for the role that frankly needs filling most, in my estimation, which is X receiver, because I don't know if Brandon Aiyuk's going to be on the team, and that's whether or not he's on the roster, right? So we get to November, then Brandon Aiyuk might be able to come back and give you something. But between now and then, you're going to need someone to play as the 1X receiver. And I frankly don't want to see Jauan Jennings in that spot, because everyone in the league figured out last year, you just press him, he can't separate. And so Brock is force-feeding Jauan Jennings the ball because he's a great receiver, but you're throwing it into tight windows. And I think we saw as the season progressed, Brock got a little bit more comfortable than he should have in getting the ball in tight windows to Jauan Jennings, and started throwing some interceptions his way because teams could key in on it. And he knew that, frankly, there was nobody else that they needed to key in on until Ricky Pearsall really showed up and asserted himself. So the role that I would see Lockett in, he has to be in the slot. So that would be kind of a third down situation where you're in 11 personnel, or you're in a true 3 wide receiver set with Pearsall at the Z. Then you can move Jennings to the X and then have Lockett in the slot. I'm not sure that the money and the role are going to line up there, but certainly he wouldn't be the first great Seattle Seahawk to slide on down south and see what's up around here.
Yeah, here are the odds. I'm sharing the screen here. Bet online. Niners are 2-1 favorites. Then the Chargers are 13-4. Jets 9-2. So there you go. I mean, I just kind of stumbled on that. I was not looking for that today, but Tyler Lockett. Now the other two things that I saw this week. One was that I'm reading more reports out of New York that the Jets are still shopping Garrett Wilson. To me, looking at the receiver market, that's the guy. I mean, I in fact, the Niners drafting receivers is such a crapshoot that trading a pick for like a day 2 pick for a Garrett Wilson would be high on my list of things. If I really do want to get a receiver out of this draft, I think that's the route I would go instead of trying to figure out which receiver is going to be able to make it in the NFL, blah, 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 blah. And so many of them can't. How about this? How about just trade a day 2 pick this year and a day 2 pick next year, like a 2 this year, or maybe a 3 this year and a 3 next year, or something like that. A 3 this year and something else next year, whatever it is. But for a Garrett Wilson, and then you don't have to worry about, what if you drafted Teteroa McMillan and he doesn't play well? What if you draft Luther Burden and he's not quite the guy? What if you draft Trey Harris and he just, he doesn't adapt to the league till the second year? It's like, don't mess around with these rookie receivers. If you could trade for Garrett Wilson, I would rather give a couple. I'd rather even trade a little bit more capital than to try to handicap this in the draft. And I think, me, man, I think I know what I'm talking about when it comes to all these players, but I also can acknowledge what's a difficult evaluation versus an easy evaluation
100%.
And trying to decipher which college receiver coming out of the spread in this super simplistic system is going to be able to seamlessly transition to the NFL with their incredibly complex system, and it's very difficult to succeed.
Yeah,
I'm out of the wide receiver business. Maybe I'm just down on the receivers this year.
That's fair.
But I'm trading multiple day 2 picks for Garrett Wilson before I'm going to try to handicap this wide receiver crap.
That would be what I say
crop.
Yeah, crop. That would be what a competent, well-run NFL team would do, Larry. Except you're running into a big issue. Being an established star receiver in the NFL means they have to pay you. And he has 1 year left on his contract. So the 49ers, absolutely. Would you give up 2 day 2 picks? Hell, would you give up a first-round pick to get a guy that can do exactly what it is you'd be drafting somebody hoping they can do? He's 25 years old, so a little tread on the tires. He's the same age as some of the players coming out in the draft. Like, absolutely, logically very sound. And then we get into the whole, is Jed York going to pay anybody? The reason that they're all in on the draft isn't because they think that the draft is a significantly better way of augmenting their football roster. They're all in on the draft because the draft is cheap as hell. They're shopping at grocery outlet and not Whole Foods on purpose. And you might get the same kind of produce. You might also not. You gotta run your chances. And I think that you are 100% correct. Garrett Wilson, for whatever, would be fantastic. And I think in a past time, this would have been something that we could seriously consider the 49ers doing, because the 49ers were being serious, but they're not spending any money. And Garrett Wilson, if he gets traded, it's going to be, hi, my name's Garrett. Thank you for trading for me. Let's talk contract extension. And the 49ers are going to be like, oh, we don't do those things here. We're not giving out money. I don't know if they don't want to pay
anybody, Dieter. I just don't know. They didn't want to pay. They don't want to pay guys that aren't good. And they don't want to pay
their
guys.
Threshold. I can agree that a lot of the guys that they left, their threshold for good is higher than it's ever been. To the point where, they're already, the fact that they have buyer's remorse on Aiyuk after 7 games, like, that's a pretty high bar to do a complete 180 in a year. I understand that it wasn't a universally loved thing and all this, but the 49ers put their name on the contract at $30 million a year. And now I understand, again, the injury and whatever it was that happened, I get it. But to now be like, we got to get this guy off the books, like that tells me it's more about the fiscal ramifications than it is about the player. Deebo Samuel, it would have been easier to just eat it for a year and let him go on his merry way. What's the 5th-round draft pick going to do for you? I guess in this case for the 49ers, they think he's going to be a starter, but that's neither here nor there. It would have been easier to just move along, pay him for the year.
Why didn't they then?
Because they can get off of the cash for this year and they can take all the dead cap money now as opposed to later. And that's been their decision-making process in all things. They want to clear the books.
Well, don't you think that lends itself to Aiyuk being dealt?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you made a very strong argument on Thursday. Now, do I think they will pull the trigger? Still no. Do I think that everybody who is suggesting that they will is sound in their stance? Absolutely. I think they want to get off of Brandon Aiyuk, and I think they'll take pennies on the dollar to get off of him because they don't want to continue to pay the car payment on a Brandon Aiyuk. And we can go into the Bentley analogy again and the insurance analogy and all that. But I think that they are trying to get money off the books because it is a dramatic overreaction to Jed York kind of showing up for the first time in a while and saying, how much money am I paying? And how many games did you win last year? How about we try it where you don't pay anybody except for we'll keep the quarterback because we understand that that's our business. That's the fundamental part of the business. But let's go really stars and scrubs this year instead of, hey, yeah, there's some guys we're willing to move on from. There's some guys we'd like to keep around. We might have to pay more than we really think they're worth, but that's the cost of doing business, the cost of being successful. And we can adjust, right? We can put ourselves in a better fiscal position moving forward without totally gutting our roster. And they decided to totally gut the roster. So, sure.
And yet they're the betting favorite in Vegas to win the division.
I think that's because no one's updated those bets. Can you even place that bet right now?
Yeah, you can. No, those odds have been updated today. So I mean, it's we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
I'll ask you a question. Are you convinced that this 49ers roster as it stands today, no further extrapolation, which I know is a ridiculous notion. It's not how it's going to work.
It's not NFL. I mean, there's not enough NFL players on it.
Do you think they're better than the Cardinals?
No, I don't think. I think everybody has a more put together roster in the division than the 49ers currently do. The Niners have let 17 players walk away. They're doing this on the heels of where they had one good draft, but prior to that, they had 3 bad drafts. So they don't have, what they're doing is totally fine if they had young players ready to step in for the players that they're letting walk away, but they don't. And that is the problem in a nutshell. One more name on this before we move off to this topic. Yeah. I saw a thing on Twitter the other day that the Jaguars' new general manager wants to move off Travon Walker. Now, I realize Travon Walker is not Aiden Hutchinson. And I realize that Walker, is where everybody views him through that lens. Oh, he's a bust. But I don't see him as a bust at all. I think he's a huge talent. I think he's big and strong and fast and potentially dominating. And they're stupid if they want to move off of him, I think. But they may be stupid. If I were the Niners, that's a guy that I think I would take in and try to get an investment in. One, you're paying pennies on the dollar. Mm-hmm. Two, he's a young defensive end who I think there's a reasonable belief that he could be a really good player for the next 3 or 4 years opposite Nick Bosa. I kind of look at him the way, the Niners, got a nice little run off of Laken Tomlinson for a, very, was a bust as a first-round pick. They paid a 5th for him. They got him, and he played pretty good for them. To me, Travon Walker, I'd be very interested if he's available.
I mean, we're back in the same situation he had 10.5 sacks last year for a Jaguars team that couldn't get after the quarterback. He's a good player. I think anyone who doesn't think he's a good player doesn't watch the Jaguars, which is probably the healthy thing to do in life. But again, why are the Jaguars considering moving off of him? because he has 1 year left on his contract and he's 25 years old and a pass rusher, and everyone is looking at this. Why are the Jets considering moving off of Garrett Wilson, even though he's a great player? He's a legitimately great player because they just saw that Jamar Chase got $40 million. Why would people be wanting to move off of Travon Walker? Because they just saw like $40 million for Max Crosby. And they're looking at this and they're doing what the 49ers did, which is, we couldn't possibly pay that. That's ridiculous. The market's out of control and we won't be held hostage. We're going to get out ahead of this. We're going to make sure, because we wouldn't possibly re-sign him to what he'll ask for. So we might as well get the draft picks now instead of some comp pick down the line. That's why they're listening. I don't think the 49ers want to pay anybody. I think that they want to be cheap.
Ever again?
Kind of. I mean,
oh, come on.
Not until Brock is paid and not until the books are further cleared. Not until they have a lot of cost certainty moving forward. And frankly, probably not until they start winning again, which requires the draft picks to come through. But I'm with you 100%. I mean, the logic of, we have the draft, we'll be fine. Like, you're going to draft for need for all 3 days? Like, you draft for the year to come and the year to come after that. You don't draft for the upcoming season. Sure, there's examples like the Eagles drafted 2 players that they needed to start this upcoming season or this past season in the argument. Like, that happens. First round pick, you need a guy. Okay, that makes sense. That's what first round picks are for. They should be a day one starter. Talking about a guy in the 4th round and you're going to have to start him at defensive end or corner. Like, that's not how good teams function. You need to have, I've heard a lot of folks suggest, they're on the Rams path. They're going to follow the Rams. Well, the Rams had they had a really good draft in 2023. No question about it when they did their build, tear it down thing. They got Puka Nacua in the 5th round. And they got some really good defenders too. You know what else they had? They had 2 viable starters the year prior in the draft. They had 2 viable starters the year prior to that. They still had Aaron Donald on the team. So they weren't ripping it all the way down to the studs.
Well, it's also easier said than done. I mean, the Niners
100%.
didn't get anything out of the 21, 22, or 23 drafts except for Lenore and Purdy. That's it. Last year's group was pretty good, but still, I mean, 3 drafts in a row, they got 2 total players. They're now in, I mean, look at it this way. The greatest draft in 49er history, according to most, is the 86 draft. The year after they got Rice, they traded back a couple times. They were in the teens. They traded down to like 33. They started with Larry Roberts. They drafted 6 starters, including the future Hall of Famer Charles Haley. And they were great in 87. They won the whole thing in 88. They won the whole thing in 89. They went to the NFC Championship game in 90. They were still really good competing for championships in 91, 92. The Cowboys got better, but still the Niners, you really were buoyed by their 86, by having Rice in 85, the greatest, receiver of all time.
Arguably the greatest player of all time. Yeah.
Right. And then the next year loading up with 6 starters, including a dominating pass rusher in Haley. Mm-hmm. And they wound up trading Haley stupidly. But either way, they still wound up with the greatest draft ever. It produced 6 starters. If this year's draft produced 12 starters, it might not be enough. That's what kind of needs the Niners have right now. They have tremendous needs. So it's like, and I'll say this too, it's like I get the feeling that we'll see how it goes, but that the analytics crowd is going to have a loud voice in the Niners draft, which is fine, I guess, to some degree. But you know what? We already have some indications here that, like they need badly to invest in a couple of big time offensive tackles, right? Trent's ancient. McKivitz is not one of your premier tackles. They just lost their swing tackle in free agency. And yet Matt Barrows is like, hey, they think McKivitz is the bee's knees. They think he's really special and that they just need a swing tackle. So it's like, so now we're going to find some guy who's got movement ability because they value that, who's got experience playing left and right tackle. which might be fine, but it also might compartmentalize you right out of the best tackles in the game because you're looking for a guy who moves at a certain way and, played a certain amount and is ready to play. So he played a lot in college. He's, a certain measurable athletically, and, he's played right and left tackle, so he can fit and be your quote unquote swing tackle. But in reality, Trent Williams is 37 and could easily get hurt, and then you need him to be your starting left tackle. And McKivitz could easily drift away and be nothing, and all of a sudden you need him to be your starting right tackle, and you've got this somewhat mobile guy who can play right tackle and left tackle, but he's really like 4 or 5 players worse than the guys you could have had. But those guys only played left tackle or only played right tackle or didn't have the exact measurable. It's like, I get the feeling that they're headed towards that kind of a draft where it's like, we're going to take a guy who's totally lesser, but he's got experience on the left side and the right side, and he can be our quote unquote swing tackle. And you're going to favor that over probably some guy who's a great left tackle, but he's never played. You know what I'm saying?
This is like the issue with drafting for need.
Yeah. I mean, this
is
very
specific.
If
you have good players,
your way right out of a good player.
100%. And I have heard the argument, and there might be some logical soundness to this, that the Niners have so many needs that, in fact, they can't be picky, that they almost can't screw it up. They have so many needs. But that is the case study you just laid out there is the exact reason why that logic doesn't hold up. They're going to be looking for somebody who can fill a certain role on day one, and they're going to be looking for that person in an area where day one starters should not be drafted. And the ability to pull that off, I think, is beyond anybody in the NFL. I can't believe that they think, of all teams, that the 49ers think that they can pull this one off. Internally, they can't really believe this. They can't believe that they'll pull this off because even the Rams can't pull this off.
It's a degree of difficulty that is off the charts. So it's like these rah-rah 49er people, and they are out there. They're out there as far as the fans. They're out there as far as the media. These people that literally a blimp could hit Levi's Stadium, and they would argue that, they put the stadium there to absorb the blow of the blimp that they knew was going to crash. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. It's like, please, you're nauseating at this point.
I find the whole thing of, John Lynch is like, we have a plan. It's called the draft. It's like, we've known this entire time that's your plan. We think it's a shitty plan. That's why we're angry. We think it's a bad plan. It's not that we don't know the plan. It's that we know the plan. That's why we're pissed off. And yet they'll go about it. There's no alternative now. They've already.
What did you think of that answer? By the way, he said during Stanford's pro day to Matt Barrows from The Athletic, "We've got this thing called the draft."
Yeah,
and I think the thing the fans should know is we have a plan, and we're going to execute that plan, and we're excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, that is. Just let me know when Jed removes the gun from his back so that he can speak freely. That's what it is. That sounds like a hostage video. That's what that sounds like. We have a plan. It's called the draft. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. We know it's a bad plan. That's a stupid, flippin' plan. That's why everyone's angry at you. And being a little cheeky about it does not help your argument, man. It doesn't help. By the way, I feel bad for John. I don't think that John's initial idea of how to handle this offseason was, what if we lose everybody? What if we just let them all go?
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that they were given their marching orders by Jed and Parag about their spending and getting it in order and this and that. Yeah. Some could argue about the wisdom of this year taking a step back and a reset or remodel, whatever you want to call it, compared to other years. But I have no problem with it. I think it's the right time to do it. You could argue it should have been done last year, but I don't think it should be held off, or I don't think they should have waited till next year. Their roster's not that compelling. They do have a lot of dead cap. They've got some injuries. there's reasons to have this year be the year that you kind of throw away as a rebuild year, but it doesn't sound like they're willing to admit that. It sounds like they're going to come out and be like, we expect everything we've always expected, except you're going to try to do it with 40 rookies on your roster. Let's talk about Brandon Aiyuk for a second.
It's ridiculous.
Brandon Aiyuk, according to Greg Bedard, he thinks Brandon Aiyuk's still going to the Patriots, and there's still talk out of Cleveland that maybe Cleveland has interest. Now, there's also talk the Patriots are going to meet with Stephon Diggs. There's also rumors about Carolina. The one thing I'm totally and completely convinced that Brandon Aiyuk is gone just because of what John Lynch said at the combine, and that he didn't have to say any of it. He easily could have put it to bed that he was going anywhere. He did put it to bed when I asked him about Bosa and trade talks a year ago, or whatever it was. He was like, yeah, we're not trading him. He didn't say that with Aiyuk. It really reeks of they are going to trade him. Though there's this whole group of people are like, they're not going to get a good offer, so they're not going to move him. And it's like,
that's not why
of course they're not going to get a good offer. I mean, why would they get a good offer? But that doesn't mean they're not going to move him. And to me, I think that the kind of the unknown topic, and we'll see, and we're going to see this out before the end of the month. It's the 20th. If he's a Niner after the 1st, he's probably going to be a Niner, but and he's probably going to wind up missing a good chunk of the year. But I get the feeling that they want that money back so much, and Lynch talked about it so definitively. He's like, well, the good part of this is, that to me that didn't sound like, well, if we could move him and this and that. That sounds like a guy who knows that there's some team willing to trade him day 3 picks or whatever. And I do think it's going to be multiple day 3 picks, but I think he's moving. I think it'll be the final kind of piece of the puzzle for the people who are out there who don't really realize that the Niners are in kind of a tear down, rebuild, remodel, whatever you want to call it. I think the Aiyuk trade here in the next 10 days or week or 2 weeks will be the final, for the people who aren't on board with, they're rebuilding in 2025. I think they will be once. I think they'll either, I don't know if they'll like it, but everybody will fully understand the direction once Aiyuk is dealt.
Yeah, not exactly subtle. But we come back to the offer. I wouldn't be shocked if the 49ers were the one attaching something. We see this in the NBA a lot, where you have to attach a sweetener to get off of a contract. And this contract is a ticking time bomb for the 49ers. Now, they've clearly...
I mean, you don't think they're going to get anything? I think they'll get something. You're saying that they won't be able to move him except if they said, here's Aiyuk and a 4th. And
something like that.
And then you just take all the money and the Niners get nothing. I think the Niners will get something, but I think it's going to be, as I said, multiple day. I mean, the Browns have 4 6th-round picks, and the Patriots have 3 7th-round picks. And I just think that what are the Niners really going to? What could they potentially get for Aiyuk? Multiple day 3 picks. That's what I see.
I just don't see why a team with buying power. And let's use the Patriots as the clearest example. They have the most cap space of anybody in the league, and they were throwing around money like it was going out of style. Like, I don't understand why a team with that kind of buying power would be like, oh, yeah, let's take on the massive financial ramifications of Brandon Aiyuk's contract. We'll take on all of the fiscal aspects that are bad from that contract and also get the lesser player and not even get him immediately. Like, I don't see this as a movable deal. I think that the Niners have concluded in their minds, oh, well, we'll just trade him and we'll get off. We'll pull a fast one on somebody. I don't think I don't hear a lot of buzz. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, they're interested. If you're interested, this has been around for a couple weeks now. I haven't heard any deep traction. I haven't heard anyone even propose a trade outside of you, Larry. I haven't heard any, newsbreakers say oh, we're hearing Like we did. How many different trade offers did we hear come through the pipeline from people that we trusted the last time we did this in July and August with Brandon Aiyuk? We knew every offer that was on the table. Oh, the Patriots are going to send X, Y, and Z. Oh, the Browns are going to send Amari Cooper in a second-round pick. We haven't heard squat. You're coming out here throwing out 3 seventh-round picks because someone's got to say something. Because no one knows.
I mean, Todd McShay said it the other day on his podcast that he's hearing rumblings of the Patriots. Greg Bedard is saying he's been covering the Patriots for a while that he really believes that Aiyuk to the Patriots is going to happen. There's people in Cleveland that think it's going to happen. I just think it's going to happen just because I don't think the 49ers care what they get back, really. I think
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they might draw
care, but they care about the 110 mil. They care about Jed's 110 mil. They're on a mission to reclaim it. They'll take whatever it takes to reclaim it.
They'll give whatever it takes. They'll give whatever it takes.
Well, no, but I think they'll take. I think they'll wind up getting 2 6-round picks probably for Brandon Aiyuk. I don't think they're going to give it.
Larry, it wouldn't shock me if they ended up doing a pick swap that on the surface looks like, oh, the Niners they moved up 2 rounds. But then you realize, oh, actually they got a 2026 5th-round pick and got back a 7th-round pick this year. So they gave up actually more than they received. Something to that effect.
Well, we'll see. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it will be structured, but I think
it's an NBA salary cap dump.
I think it's going to be Aiyuk. I think if you're going to get anything, you'd get like probably a day 2 pick, but you're not going to get anything. You're going to get I could see something like this, like Aiyuk and a 2026 mid-round pick for some player off of one of those teams, Greg Newsome, Jabril Peppers, something like that, and a couple day 3 picks.
That would be such a colossal win to get like an NFL player.
Well, there's also other people that are hurt. I mean, I'll give you this. Cleveland's got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He hurt his neck. His career's in doubt. I mean, in a lot of ways, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is in the same spot that Aiyuk is in. You might want to consider that kind of a deal, We've got an injured receiver. We've got an injured linebacker. Oh, really? We need a linebacker. Oh, really? We need a receiver. There you go. Here's your receiver. Yeah. Here's our linebacker.
But just a little bit different in, Akusa Warako, who's like a nice enough player. He's not a $30 million a year player that you just had this big drag it out with.
No.
For, to be the main receiver for your $60 million quarterback or whatever. You didn't it's just a little different. I get you. I listen, again, salary dumps, we could just get right into the whole NBA thing. But what happens is in the NBA, you got to attach a sweetener. And a lot of times you got to attach a 1st-round pick to let the, Detroit Pistons take on that contract. Oh, you want us to take on Tobias Harris? How about a 1st? How about 5 seconds? And it wouldn't shock me at all if push came to shove, the 49ers are the ones having to up their offer when it comes to getting rid of Brandon Aiyuk because they know that they have 10 days from right now to get that deal done before the time bomb goes off, in which case it's not even worth trading him anymore. And so, hey, push comes to shove. The Patriots are like, we'll talk to you on the 2nd then. We can talk to you after that contract goes clear and you got to pay him that guaranteed money. Or you could, toss in another 5th-round pick for us. And what are the Niners going to do? Time's ticking.
I know. It's going to be really juicy because I think they really what they're really after is that economic relief.
100%. There's no reason to do it otherwise.
The Niners have lost 17 players from last year.
It's incredible.
There's an article out written by some guy online says John Lynch might be in denial about the reality the 49ers are facing.
In denial.
They've shed a lot of players and they haven't really added a lot of players. And yet Lynch is like, hey, big things lie ahead. We got this thing called the draft. We got picks. We got a plan. we're going to execute our plan, blah, 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 blah. Is he in denial about where they're at or where is he in this thing? What's your read on
Never
him?
forget why John Lynch was originally hired. Okay. His role has changed since 2017, But never forget why he was initially hired. He was hired to be the political arm of the San Francisco 49ers so that Kyle Shanahan didn't have to work the phones or go to some, meeting in Boca Raton or handle cutting guys on, roster cut down day or bringing, Kyle doesn't want to go out and watch kickers on a tryout. We know that for a fact. So John would handle all the administrative stuff. And you would hear Kyle say all the time, John Lynch could run for president. He was the Manchurian candidate in a lot of ways for Kyle Shanahan. Now that responsibility has diminished, and Kyle has given more and more real responsibility to John Lynch over the years. But when John Lynch is out here being like, everything's going to be okay, guys, just look at me. Like, don't you believe me? Like, this is great. We got a plan. That's why John Lynch was brought to the San Francisco 49ers in the first place, because that man could sell ice to an Eskimo. He is charming, handsome, bona fides like nobody else has, and he's out there selling it. He's out there selling the gospel. But this wasn't his idea. This isn't Kyle's idea. They're not going it. Given when they had full control of this thing, how deep into the red they got with spending money and doing it too much. Like now they just suddenly saw the light of fiscal responsibility. No, this is the man who has been cutting the checks absentee for, half a decade now, finally looking at the books and being like, what the fuck are these guys doing? And saying, you know what, we're tightening it up around here. Daddy's taking the credit card away. How are you going to sell it? That's not my fucking problem. Go out there and figure it out. You guys are so goddamn smart. I'm paying you so much goddamn money. You've been spending my money like it's going out of style. Fucking figure it out. Go do the draft. So this is John Lynch out there selling, baby. You got to sell. And John Lynch is out there because he's really good at it. But anyone who has been part of this process the entire time knows he doesn't believe this. He's just selling it. He's just selling it. And it's a pretty hard thing to sell because it's a pretty tough place to be in if you're the GM of the team and you're so neutered that you can't even go out and give Dre Greenlaw, a guy that apparently everybody in the building wants, as much money as any other. You can't even pay him. You can't even pay him what the market says he's worth because your owner is out here preaching about autonomy and he's got his little, Doge guy in Parag finally showing up back from Leeds or Glasgow or wherever. He's been asleep at the wheel when it comes to fiscal responsibility for the last 5 years, but now suddenly he's the one who's going to get everybody in tip-top shape. That's what's happening. We're doing the same thing we did after the Super Bowl in 2012, after Jim Harbaugh. It's Jed is here, and Jed is going to tell everyone how to run this thing, and guess where that usually goes? Right into the dumpster and right into a situation where you have to give Kyle Shanahan, someone who had never had head coaching or general manager experience, both of those jobs on a 6-year contract, because otherwise your franchise is going to dissolve into the ether of nothing because you hired Jim Tom Sula and Chip Kelly back-to-back while keeping Trent Baalke around because, I don't know, he does well at parties. I don't know. This is a bad owner. And the best years the San Francisco 49ers have had are when he's had nothing to do with the fucking team, but he's back, baby, and John Lynch has got to sell it.
You believe this is the beginning of the end for the Niners?
I don't know. I mean, no, I think that John Lynch and Kyle...
Sure sounds like it.
No, I think this year is going to suck way harder than anyone's giving it credit for. I think that the gutting of this thing has been so underappreciated to this point. They have done a magnificent job of taking this motherfucker down to the studs. This thing is down to the studs. And they are banking on the same thing they banked on last year. Oh, well, Christian McCaffrey and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, they're all going to stay healthy. And George Kittle is going to stay healthy. We have great star players. We have all pro players. Trent Williams is going to stay healthy. Except those guys didn't stay healthy. And you know what the best predictor of future injury is? Past injury. And age. And all of those guys are old and injured. And so are they going to get through all 17? They going to put up all pro seasons again? Probably not. Probably fucking not. So then what happens? Well, guess what? You don't have a middle class anymore. Whatever middle class you had, which sucked last year, got markedly worse, but you will have a shit ton of rookies. My God, will you have so many rookies. But don't worry, you'll just do the same thing that you did last year for the first time in your entire drafting career, which is nail your first 4, maybe 5 picks. You'll get that one figured. You'll just nail it again. You're just going to be the greatest drafting team of all time, and that's going to hold up the entire operation. The year to have torn this thing down was immediately after the Super Bowl. I wrote it. I told everybody this. That's why I sound like the, quote, prophet of doom invader. By the way, great photo. I mean, I'm the prophet of doom, but this baby face is the prophet of doom, but Invader 49er is the sense of optimism here. Debo should have been cut. You should move on from a lot of guys. You had the opportunity there because you saw they got gassed in that game and the air was entirely out of the balloon. And you move on from Aiyuk. You move on from Trent if you have to. You certainly move on from Debo. You cut your losses with McCaffrey if you have to. You do all these things. You do the hard reset, and you just say, we got close. That was our best shot. And you have an honest conversation and say, that's as close as we're getting. There's no way we can run this thing back because we know how tough it is to get back here. We've done it before. We're a team that's been back. We know how tough it is. It took us 4 years. We're not just going back to back, not in the NFC, not in this league, not with our schedule, and not with all the wear and tear that these guys have on their bodies. These are not spring chickens. We're not the youngest team in the league. If the Green Bay Packers next year go to the Super Bowl, they can make the argument, yeah, we can run it back next year because they're like the third youngest team in the league. The 49ers were the oldest team in the league. And then they get all the way into overtime of the Super Bowl, and then somehow they just think, oh, we can do it again. Well, evidence is that they couldn't. And while I believe in Brock Purdy, I think he's a great quarterback, and I think that you should give him what his market declares he's worth, which is around $55 million. But I don't care if it's 60, and I don't care if it's 50, and I don't care if it's 65. I don't give a damn. Pay the guy what he's worth, and whatever he can negotiate is what he's worth. Regardless, when you look at this roster, it's older and so young, it can't be trusted. So you went from 6 wins to what? Like, legitimately, like the argument that people are making on why the Niners should be better this upcoming season is that, oh, their schedule is easy. Sure. It looks easy now. Come 3 weeks into the season, we can be like, damn, that's a bunch of juggernauts. NFL,
I mean, it's I mean, to me, to say they're going to be horrible right now is just, that is too doom and gloom because you don't know who they're going to draft. You don't know what the team's going to look like.
They can't get enough.
They have a bunch of picks. I mean, they have 12 draft picks.
They cannot
and it's a very
possibly draft their way out of this. They can't.
I think they absolutely could. I mean, I definitely feel like I could do it. I definitely feel like I could put together a team that's good, that because you have 12 picks right now
for 2026.
You also have
sure.
You also have Aiyuk to move if you want to move him. You have a trade down that I think you could probably trade down from 11 and pick up a couple extra picks.
I'll say this: I've been asking about trading down to people who are in rooms that would have the ability to trade down, and it sounds like everybody's gotten totally Moneyball pilled and is going full Patriots on this thing, full Belichick Patriots. Or going full Les Snead. And everybody's figured out, oh, you know what's not great? Not picking one. Like, if I'm not picking one, I don't really want to pick early. And so the idea that some team's going to trade up, like, it's just not there. This is the first NFL draft, I think.
No. There will be people that will trade up. It's
Larry,
not that,
let me give.
There are coveted players. There's a cutoff in every draft. The cutoff in this draft is right around 15.
Okay.
And so at 11, they are going to be sitting in a good spot. The teams will be willing to trade up.
If you think that the 49ers are going to
I'll bet you if you want to bet. We can bet on it.
I'll bet you. Because let me throw this your way.
Okay, if anybody trades up in the first round, you're wrong.
No, I'm gonna establish the parameters of the bet after I throw this your way.
All right.
Larry, have you noticed that no one has traded a first round pick this year? That everybody is drafting in their allotted slot from the NFL? That there's no movement of a first-round pick before this draft. No one's holding someone else's pick in the first round. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's because everybody now covets.
Your point?
Everyone now covets first-round picks to the point where they're too afraid to be aggressive with them and trade up. To trade up, it's going to cost you. People are everyone's doing the 49ers thing, maybe not to their same level of extreme, but everybody's doing this thing where they're very precious with their draft picks right now. I don't want to give up any draft picks. Draft picks are cheap. Draft picks are cost
That's
control.
easy to say right now. When the clock's ticking. I mean, you got to remember this, though. You got to remember where the 49ers are picking and what kinds of players are around them. you've got some very unique players that people will want to trade up for, including the offensive tackles, the receivers, and the defensive linemen. Not to mention Tyler Warren, I think, is definitely a guy that people will trade up for. Shedeur Sanders, I think is a guy people will trade up for. Jackson Dart, I have a feeling, is going to go higher than people think. There's a lot of big time tackles and D linemen. It's beauty in the eye of the beholder. So I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I just think
I'll lay down the bet.
I don't think it's easy to. First of all, it's always about I've seen you're always going to be able to find somebody who will trade up if your price tag is low enough. And all 100%. I'm saying is, if you're trying to get some bonanza, yeah, you're
I'm not asking for.
There's lots of NFL teams that just won't do anything unless they get some bonanza offer. But I think the 49ers are, if they're smart, I think they, probably the player that they could get at 11 is similar to the player they could get at 15, is similar to the player they could get at 18. And I think they'll try.
Why wouldn't that logic
at a reasonable price?
Why wouldn't that logic also apply to the teams at 15 or 18 or wherever? Oh, well, if I just stay here, I should be able to get an equally good player.
No, I'm just saying you have to have a motivated player, a motivated team to go down. I think the 49ers are motivated to go down. They've got lots and lots of needs.
I think a lot of teams
there's
are motivated to go down, and there's not enough teams motivated to go up. That's my argument.
I just named a bunch of players that I think people will trade up for. I do think like Nick Emanwari. It's a very thin draft. He had an incredible workout. He's projected to go in the middle of the first round. I think there'll be some teams that will fall in love with him. I definitely think there's going to be people that are going to fall in love with Tyler Warren. I mentioned Shedeur Sanders. Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron are two of the best corners. They're right there. They're going to be – that's where they're coming off the board between 10 and 15. I think if you want them – and they're teams that are going to want them because they're great, great players. So we'll see. We'll see. I personally think that nobody's going to want to trade up into the top 5. Okay. But I think lots – maybe you'll see somebody go from in the top 5, try to get up to get the quarterback. But – especially if Shedeur is there at 11, I think there's a very good chance the 49ers will be able to move back. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's all about
I'll bet you specifically that the 49ers will not move back in the first round.
I'll bet that. I'll bet that right now. Absolutely. Because I think absolutely that they will. Because I think that's the smart move.
But I don't think they will.
The smart move is to move back, and I think they will move back. Because I think there's enough players there that I think other teams would want to move up for. All right, let's hit a couple more topics before we get out of here. Rock Ya-Sin jumps to Detroit today. He played 13 games for the Niners. Should the Niners have tried to retain any of these veteran players, or should they just let them all walk?
At a certain point, you have to maintain somebody. Like your roster is so bare bones now that like Malik Collins, who again in a vacuum, I'd be like, yeah, get rid of him. Who cares? Like, but now it's like, fuck, you got rid of Malik Collins. Like, who's going to start? It's same thing with. I have been very vocal about how I thought the Leonard Floyd signing was a mistake. I thought that was really dumb and showed how ridiculous they were with their money beforehand and how flawed their pro scouting process was. I would have had no problem in a vacuum getting rid of Leonard Floyd, except for like, who's starting now? We're going Sam O. I mean, Robert Beal, rookie. There's you only have one first round pick. You only have, I know you got 4 picks in the top 100. You got to hit on every single one of them and at positions that you specifically need at. So, Rock Ya-Sin would have been a nice depth piece. But the thing is, I have no problem with him going in the sense that, like, Rock Ya-Sin can't start for you. And so it's nice to have the depth piece. I would like to be getting my depth from the draft and starters from guys in prior drafts or free agency or trades. But if we're going to go all draft, you might need to maintain some of your mediocre players just so that you have bodies that you can get through camp and get through a season with. Because right now, I don't know where those bodies are coming from. They have all these draft picks. Oh, they've hit on all of them. That's great. What happens if one of them gets injured at a position of need? You're not going too deep off of the draft at all these positions of need. So now what? You're just signing dudes off the street? Like, this roster is so thin. It's really thin. And I Yeah, Rock Ya-Sin's probably not the hill to die on, pun intended, I suppose. But
no, I mean
he was a nice enough guy.
Let him move on. I mean, he's a good player. I think he'll play well. Matt Barrows had his mock draft 2.0 in the Athletic. He had the Niners taking Derek Harmon from Oregon. It's funny.
11?
The more we get closer to the draft, the more time I have to do deeper dives on all the players. And if there is a player that I've watched a lot in the last 10 days that I like less than I liked him before, it's this guy, Derek Harmon. I don't know why. I don't get the obsession with Derek Harmon. He played on a super loaded line. He's a good pass rusher, but he's not a dominating mover. I mean, he's a big guy who can move a little bit, but I mean, he's not good against the run. If you look at any of the analytics, he doesn't come off of blocks. He doesn't make plays against the run. I can't have another Hargrave pass rushing tackle who doesn't play the run, because you got to play I can have a pass rush. I can have a tackle who only plays the run and only plays the pass from time to time, and I can get away with that. But I got to have a defensive tackle that plays the run, because if you don't play the run, you don't get to the pass. If you can't stop the run, you have to earn the right to rush the passer. You don't get to rush the passer. You have to earn the right on first and second down to rush the passer. Niners have not been able to earn that right nearly enough because they haven't been able to stop the run on first and second down. And so drafting another defensive tackle that can shoot up field and show some impressive quickness from time to time, but can't anchor and stand in against the run is not the way to go. So I don't understand the people who love Derek Harmon. I know he had a bunch of pressures, but the numbers, there's multiple numbers out there that show that he is deficient defending the run. And I can't have a defensive tackle who's deficient defending the run. It's just not. That's the first job of defensive tackle play is you got to stop the run.
I'm going to be very biased here because I wasted a lot of good money going to the Rose Bowl. And that entire Oregon team is soft. That defense is soft. When they finally went up against real competition, sorry to the rest of the Big Ten, when they got pushed around up front. And Harmon was, I think he actually graded out well in that game, I think I saw. Could have fooled me, man, because they got absolutely demolished by the great Ohio State offensive line. You watch the tape, I'm with you. I don't see any. I don't like anybody on that line. I don't like anybody on that defense. This linebacker that, was getting buzzed yesterday because John Lynch talked to him a couple of times, like they're in the lunchroom or something. Oh my God, did you see that he talked to him? He sucks. He can't cover anybody out of the backfield. That's like the number one job of being an off-ball linebacker. And I watched the Big Ten championship game, and they were just running Singleton at him. I mean, they just turned the entire Penn State offense into run at, what's his name? What's the linebacker at Oregon's name, Larry? I know you're high on him.
The linebacker at Oregon?
Yeah. Something with an M.
Jeffrey Bassa?
Bassa, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Can't cover anybody. Can't cover anything.
He's got good numbers in coverage. He's got good coverage numbers according to PFF.
I don't know what they're watching.
He's not my favorite undersized linebacker. He's a converted safety. He moves well. He can cover. He's just not great. I like Eugene Asante and some of those other guys a whole lot more. But
all this to say, I don't like
he's
what
probably
Oregon
a day
did.
3 pick.
Yeah, I don't like this Oregon defense. I don't like Harmon. I don't like Birch. I don't like any of them. There's a weirdness to them. It's a frustrating watch. I hate watching tape and being frustrated watching the tape because you can see the physical talent and you see a deficiency in coaching or scheme or technique, and they're just glaring. And it's that kind of stuff that, like, you're at the NFL level. We don't have time to teach you basic fundamentals, which apparently no one taught you up until this point, where you're now going to be the number 11 pick in the draft.
Who's your favorite Oregon player? Who do you like of the guys this year? Do you like Tez?
Not Tez. It's the other receiver. I like Terrence Ferguson, the tight end. I like him. Okay. I like him a lot. I think that he's a really good value. I think he's a better blocker. He's not great at it. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's like a straight up like wide receiver or anything. I think that you can put him in line, and he's got enough size and strength that he can stand his own. I think he'd be a great move tight end. a true number two, especially for a 49ers team that in the past has actually done pretty well in using them when they had a wide receiver or a move tight end they could trust, H-back type.
I like Tez just from the standpoint, the value is going to be tremendous. He wouldn't run again, so he's going to stand on his 4.59, which is ridiculous considering he's 155 pounds. Yeah. It's almost a guarantee that it's going to drive him into day 3 of the draft in the 4th or 5th round. And I think at that point, I'm interested. I mean, I saw the film. I mean, he gets away from people. I saw him in Mobile. Nobody could guard him. He's small and he doesn't run fast according to the stopwatch. But when you can separate at will from defenders, I'm not as concerned about the stopwatch. So to me, I kind of like him a little bit. Some people like Connerly a little bit too, the tackle, but
no, not for me.
I'm not crazy about him. To me, there's something wrong there. I don't know. He's just a little. I mean, he's super athletic. There's like if you hear his interviews, he's
There's
just
a softness to the Oregon team. I'm calling it out. There's a softness to everything, and it's so weird. That was the knock coming into the season with Oregon. That they're so talented, but they're soft. And this past, this not the current offseason, but a year ago this time, they had spent a lot of money in NIL and a lot of recruiting capital in trying to get tougher and meaner. And perhaps they did physically, but it does not show up on the tape. You just never felt them exert themselves. Even in the game they beat Ohio State at Autzen, it felt like they were getting away with one the entire game. And you watch that film and you're like, they fucking won this game? Like, just Ohio State just kept shoving its own fist up its ass the entire game. It was brutal to watch. I just hate watching Oregon.
Oh, I know. And it was so easy to bet against them in the Ohio State game. That was an easy wager. That thing was over at the Anthem, the second one. Drake Jackson, according to reports, could be done. Second round
pick. Did he ever
pick.
start?
Yeah,
I'm being mean.
Seriously, not really.
No, like
that's That's another bad break, though. I mean, okay, so I realize he hasn't been great, but at times he's flashed some good things. He had 3 sacks in a game. But he hasn't been able to get strong enough, and now he's got a knee problem, and it sounds like it could be a career ender. I mean, God dang, can they seriously? I mean, you're starting to look really, really bad with some of these picks. This was your first pick of your draft, and he's going to be out of football like 3 years later. I mean, come on, man, that's a really bad one.
One of the things to note with Drake Jackson, everyone's going to say, oh, it's just a bad break. Like, how could you predict this? Well, they drafted him knowing that he needed to put on 15 to 20 pounds. He came to the 49ers super skinny. And that first year, he didn't do anything because he was super skinny and he couldn't be out on the field. So then he goes in the offseason before, in 2023 going in, and he puts on a shit ton of weight. And
but
now
it was
his
bad weight. You could tell he was all pumped up. He didn't look right.
He looked bloated. And then he injures his knee. And it's like, yeah, well, sometimes that happens when you put on a bunch of extra weight that your body can't handle, which, I mean, again, this is why you mentioned this, Larry, a lot. And it's a very good note. That's his walking weight. Like, that's what he goes around at. That shit matters. Like, your body knows better than any, exercise physio guy. It's like, oh, I could put 15 pounds on him. That was the oldest, lamest thing I would hear when I was doing high school football recruiting. I'd hear all these college coaches come in and go, I can put 20 pounds on anybody. And it's like, yeah, but you shouldn't. Like, I appreciate
you looked
that
at the upper body development of Samson Ebukam and then looked at the upper body development of Drake Jackson. I mean, it was like night and day.
Yeah.
Ebukam looks like, body beautiful. He's super tight in the shoulders, all this muscle. Drake doesn't even look quite like a football player even.
He just looked bloated. He just looked like you inflated him. And he put on it's weight. And then, I added 20 pounds of muscle. It's like, okay, that sounds terrible. That's really impressive. And he was really young, so you can give some deference. But I'm looking here. It's like, now he's squatting 415 pounds and he can bench 315. And, he's so big and strong. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what his body type was meant to do, apparently. And so when you have a knee injury and it just lingers and lingers and lingers, it's like sometimes the body, settles the score when you try to get one over on it. And I feel bad for him because he is a legitimately really nice guy. And, I think we were all rooting for him because, one, we're not rooting against anybody in particular. And two, because he's a nice guy and it would have been a big boon for the 49ers. But this is, again, like you can't say that the Niners are just done in by bad luck here. They knew that he is a player that didn't have the requisite weight to play the position that they drafted him to play. And then I'm sure they had a conversation or 10 with him saying, hey, you need to put on some more weight in the offseason so that you stand a chance at this position. And his body couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my summation, but
yeah, it's unfortunate. So now they need a pass rusher. And one guy that I really love is Jaylen Walker from
you see him as
Georgia.
a pass rusher?
Well, no, I don't. So that's what I want. I'm going to share the screen here. This is the PFF breakdown of him. And I kind of like this guy, PFF. I forget exactly what this guy's name is. So
that's Trevor Simia. I've known Trevor for 14 years now. Trevor's the man.
So now he's going to talk about Jaylen Walker, and he doesn't really like him that much. But listen to this.
Jaylen Walker, I'm still nervous about him as a player. 30th right now on the big board. Now he has an average draft position 7 spots higher, so his average draft position is 23. That sort of speaks to, I think a lot of people outside of us are higher on Jaylen Walker. And I really do. I like him as a player, top 30. I think if you wanted to take him back into the first round, early part of the second round, hearing how he talks about the game of football, how he evaluates his own game, how he evaluates the guys that he's going up against, having that coach's background to him. I love all of that stuff. It's hard for me to give him this oh yeah, let's put him in the top 20. Let's put him in the top 15. Some people talk about him in the top 10, like for the Carolina Panthers at number 8, because he's not built like an edge rusher at all whatsoever. Can be a very valuable player, but I just think about, I don't love the linebacker instincts that he showcased this past year. So I don't love sort of his feel for spacing and coverage, specifically if you got him in off-ball linebacker roles, and he's just not built like an edge rusher. So given a lot of the intangibles, how highly it sounds like a lot of the people at the Georgia program sort of speak of him, I would definitely take a chance on him. I think he's going to be a good football player, and I like him. Just, I'm not there with that top 15. So that's where I am with Jaylen Walker.
So he's not
good take.
Not a fan of Jaylen Walker. Basically, I understand exactly what he's saying. Okay, so basically what he's saying is that Jaylen Walker is an incredible athlete who's very productive, but he has, for the most part, been an edge rusher at the University of Georgia, and he's really hasn't played very much as a stacked backer. And so he's basically what he's saying is that, he's not an edge rusher in the NFL. Because he's 6'1", 243 pounds. He's not an edge rusher. Edge rushers are like Mikael Williams. They're 6'5", 260. He's 6'1", 243, and he's got a build of a stacked backer. To me, he absolutely looks and reminds me of Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis played at Ole Miss. He was more of a stacked backer. He was not a defensive end, but he occasionally was used to put heat on the quarterback. We're just in a different era now where you take your greatest athlete and you run him at the quarterback. And whether you run him from linebacker spot or where he's played off the ball, off the line of scrimmage, or up on the line of scrimmage as a defensive end, you can do that as well. And that's what Walker has done. I see exactly his criticism, but
totally
to me, I've seen one thing that happens in the draft is if you draft guys who are a little less athletic, but they're great college football players. And you get to camp and you're like, this guy doesn't look that great because he's not a great athlete. He was a great college football player. And now he's going to try to be a great NFL player, but he's not standing out as an athlete. Jaylen Walker stands out as an athlete. This guy is an unbelievable athlete. I mean, this is a dominating athlete. 6'1", 243, 10.25-inch hands. He was the Butkus Award winner at linebacker. So he's versatile. He's athletic. He was incredibly productive. But it's when you start to do the deeper dive that you realize that this is more than just the most athletic guy, that this guy is really special. He's the son of a football coach. His dad, Curtis, was an All-American linebacker who played at Division II Catawba. His brother plays cornerback. His brother is also named Curtis at Georgia State. Jaylen's been the Dogs team captain. I have buddies who have been on campus there who are really familiar with that program, and they're like, dude, this is the guy. This is the guy that gets everybody ready to go. He's from Salisbury, North Carolina. He was a 5-star. 2020. I mean, this year he was a 3rd team All-American AP, 2nd team All SEC. He led Georgia with 10.5 tackles for loss. He led them with 6.5 sacks this year. He led them last year with 5 sacks. He played special teams on punt coverage unit because he's so, determined to be a winner. He's got elite pass rush traits as a college player, but what he just really is just an incredibly fluid athlete. He's physical, he's tough, but he's a leader. He's a leader. That's what he's famous for at Georgia. His closing burst is elite. He's tough. As I said, 5-star high school recruit, played as a freshman on the national championship team. Earlier this year against Texas, they said, hey, you can go up against anybody. Who do you want to go against? He said, give me Kelvin Banks. And then he put 3 sacks on Kelvin Banks. Yep. He was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week after dominating Kelvin Banks. To me, Dieter, what really stands out, he's often compared to Nolan Smith, but it's the first step. He's got a crazy first step, rare bend, rare flexibility, 4.5 speed, 94th percentile. I think he's really scheme versatile, but he's got it all. He's a little raw in pass coverage, I admit, what the PFF guy said there, but I think that's really more about the lack of reps. This is a player who goes forward. He is not asked a lot to run backward, but the motor runs hot. He's a Pro Bowl linebacker. I want to investigate the shoulder injury that he had. He had shoulder surgery in 2023. Mayoko just put him to the Niners at 11 in his mock draft 4.0. I think this is a truly great football player. And I'm just kind of debating, should the Niners start with a Walter Nolan or a Kenneth Grant and a big defensive lineman, or do you go with this guy? And is this guy, if I really do see Patrick Willis has got the gold jacket. And what really made me love Walker was, I can see the film and I can see his incredible play, but it was the interviews that he did. He did a bunch of interviews, and you can tell in the interviews, this guy's all about football. Some families, it's like the dad's a lawyer or doctor or whatever. This guy, the dad's a football player. His dad was a, All-American football player. Football is the family business. Football is vitally important to Jaylen Walker. And to me, he was the best, most athletic defender on the most athletic defense in the best conference. And I think he's a relatively safe player. I understand that he's not going to play in the NFL the way he played in college. You can't line him up at defensive end all day and expect him to stand up at 243 pounds. But Dieter, I still think this is a hugely special player, and I would start the draft with Jaylen Walker. Where are you with Jaylen Walker? What do you see with this player? Who would you take at 11?
I'm in love with him.
You love him.
I love him. And I think that everyone's overthinking this sometimes. When you watch this guy play, you need 3 letters. Frankly, you need 2 letters. You just need a 3-letter word. P-O-P. Everything he does just pops. And there are few players in college football who can do that when you consider the level of competition that Georgia was going up against, at least in the games I'm watching, where this guy just pops again and again and again. He was clearly the most impactful player on a Georgia defense, which was obscene. And it might not even have been that good of a Georgia defense relative to Georgia, but in relation to every other team in college football, an obscene amount of talent on that Georgia defense. And this guy just pops. He just makes plays again and again and again. I'm going to throw 2 names at you. And trust me, they're related here. One is Armand Membou. The other one is Zach Bond. So Zach Bond just wins the Super Bowl with the Eagles. Armand Membou is a guy that we've mocked a lot.
Take Membou at 11. Now it's like, you know what? I bet almost everybody would wager Membou's gone in the top 6 or 7 picks.
Probably gone at 4. We should be having the same conversation about Walker. because of a guy like Zach Bond, who was had the traits to do it, man. He was special this past year. Jaylen Walker doesn't even require that much mental extrapolation to see him as a weak side linebacker. And in particular, a weak side linebacker in a 49er system. At some point, you need to, in the same way that we consider it with Trent Williams, at some point you need to consider who's going to take over for Fred Warner, or at least give yourself an option for someone to take over for Fred Warner. You see Patrick Willis, can't disagree with you whatsoever, in the sense that there is no limit to this. Now you have the ability to maybe blitz a little bit more on off-ball linebacker, but you just play him as a true weak side linebacker. Let him do what it is he does, which is see ball, get ball, just make winning plays. That's what he does.
Seek and destroy, dude. Seek in this draft that closes space like this guy does. This guy's special.
This comes back to the Membu point. The reason that we all love Membu isn't because, we'll tackle. It's because, you can play him at guard. And then when Trent retires, you can move him over to left tackle, right? That was part of the allure for an Armand Membu for the 49ers in particular. Now, for every other team, they're just looking at him as like, we'll just start him at left tackle. He's fucking awesome. But for the 49ers, who have a great left tackle, as it stands today, they're thinking, we can still get something now and then get the real payoff later. And then we don't even have to rush him into that really important role. We can make things easy for him. We're getting 2 for the price of 1, which when you're the 49ers and you have 7 vacant starting spots and 12 draft picks and 4 of them in the top 100, you're going to need some 2 for the price of 1. And since you're not getting Hunter, who can give you the receiver you need and the cornerback you need, maybe you should consider getting a guy like Jaylen Walker, who can give you the Fred Warner replacement you're going to need one day, the weak side linebacker starter you need today, and on certain situations, certain packages, he can be that pass rusher you need as well. I don't see any downside whatsoever. I respect the hell out of Trevor. I think he does a great job at PFF, and I don't think his analysis there is wrong. Except for one phrase, his linebacker instincts. Couldn't disagree with him more. Was he perfect at stand-up linebacker when they played him off the line? No, not in the least bit.
Well, he was talking about pass angles, which if you don't play a lot of pass coverage, Dieter,
when you're always on the line,
or when you're let's just say this, on a scale of 1 to 10, when you're a solid 9 and 10 going forward, and your play going backward is more like 4, 5, 6, most defensive coordinators are just going to say, hey, we're gonna send this guy at the quarterback. We're gonna send this guy like a missile at the running back. This play right here on the running back, I want to show you because we're getting the end zone and the sideline tight. And to me, this is a guy who's diagnosing it. He pauses, and then look at the explosive speed. It's a running back running away from you, and he's just closing that down. Like, come here, I got you. You're going down.
Magnificent. He's magnificent. He's a great football player who has no warts in his game. I actually think he was pretty good in coverage, and when they gave him legitimate opportunities to do it, and they weren't just throwing him out there in the flat and saying, cover here. I mean, a lot of the mistakes that it looks like he makes are him trying to make plays, but not being put in the correct position to make the play in the first place, and diagnosing routes that are coming out of the backfield or coming across the formation and saying, I need to do this, but I'm 20 yards away as it stands, and I got to go backwards. But you think about what Dre Greenlaw did for the 49ers. It's all the same things that Walker does. You're going to be lining him up 5-6 yards behind the line of scrimmage in his new role. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine a circumstance in which he is not an impact player as a stack linebacker in the NFL, and he gives you the versatility to slide onto the interior and be the leader of your defense in a couple of years, a la Fred, because he was safety and then weak side, and then they moved him to Mike after a year or two and gave him the dot. And he can now do the thing that the Niners have suggested they've been interested in doing for years now, which is getting some more blitzes from the second level involved in the pass rush, and not just constantly relying on 4 men at 3-1 and 2-9 techniques to get the job done. I guess it's a 5 technique, but regardless, like, the versatility of this guy makes it so that you're not taking, in my opinion, just a strict off-ball linebacker with the 11th overall pick, which might be a bad cost proposition. You're getting 3 players for the price of 1, and he's going to be excellent at all 3 of them, and he's going to be exceptional at the one that you really, really need right away.
Well, and also learn your lesson. Not you, of course, but I'm talking about learn. Everybody needs to learn their lesson. Who's coming right now? Detroit. Why is Detroit coming? Because they keep drafting great players.
Yes.
Everybody made fun of Jahmyr Gibbs. They ain't making fun of Jahmyr Gibbs right now.
No, they
Everybody made fun of the Jack Campbell pick. Then nobody's making fun of the Jack Campbell pick now. Why?
Yeah.
Because Brad Holmes keeps landing stars.
He did it.
Draft stars. Jaylen Walker's a star. Here, to me, a big part of the evaluation is the person. Okay, listen to this. Listen to this guy. This is his interview from the combine. Okay, it's just he's talking about how, teams want him to be a defensive chess piece. And you can just hear how articulate he is. And he's just a real sharp guy. Listen to Jaylen Walker. This is the son of a coach.
This is what Walker, by the way, he does the voiceover for the SEC commercial.
Does he?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Because I watch SEC Network all day, every day. And when you watch it, I noticed this about 2 weeks ago. And this was after I'd already done the Walker tape evaluation. But, it's like in the SEC, it's all about, blank. And at the end, it's like, it just means more. And at the bottom of the ad, which runs about 40 times an hour on ESPN and the SEC Network, it says narrated by Jaylen Walker, University of Georgia football.
Yeah, here he is. Here he is at the combine. Listen to this.
A lot of teams want me to still be in that position of playing multiple positions for their club. So I'm excited for it. A lot of teams.
So I didn't realize it was so short. But yeah, short soundbite there. But
he's the absolute man.
The guy's absolutely fantastic. You can tell football is really important to him. He's a great player. He's got great burst, great closing speed. I mean, it's just this guy, against Texas, he had 8 tackles, 3 sacks, and a fumble recovery.
There's nothing you can do to stop him. He finds ways to win. He's a winning football player. And I know that sounds ethereal and empty and all this shit, but like this is what you're looking for on defense. The 49ers keep talking about wanting to be younger and faster and more dynamic. You have dynamism staring you right in the face with this kid. You cannot
he snuffs you out like a candle. Here's against Kelvin Banks. Okay, so Banks got him, and then he knocks the quarterback down. Tags off
Banks'
on him.
feet.
Get him. His name's Jaylen Walker.
And here's the wild part. I love Jaylen Walker. Just talked about it on the Dieter and Hutch podcast, all these things. I think I like Michael Williams even more, the Georgia defensive end. I think he's the best defensive end in the class. I'll take him over Abdul Carter a year from now. I wouldn't draft him before.
He's a freak. He's a freak. The only thing is there's huge, if you watch, and I watch Georgia a lot because I bet him a lot this year. There were just huge moments where he just disappeared.
Yeah, he said he was playing 60% because of his ankle.
Yeah, he's not quite the special player.
He's certainly no Walker. He's certainly no Walker this past.
Okay, one last one. 2 last thoughts before we get out of here. Stanford Pro Day was this week, and Lynch went out and watched it, and it came out that he's loved Aiyuk Ayomanor, the wide receiver from Stanford, for years. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up when I heard that, because I'm like, oh my God, they're going to wind up drafting this guy. And this guy is just, he's listed as the 5th best receiver in the draft by Draft
fucking planet.
They have Teteroa McMillan, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden, and then Aiyuk Ayomanor. He's an incredible physical talent, right? He's 6'2". He's 210 pounds. I understand why he's, a good athlete. But then you realize he's tore up the knee completely. He's torn the ACL, the PCL, the MCL, the meniscus. So that thing has to be
him and Brandon Aiyuk will have something in common when they get together.
He has absolutely no ability to run routes. I've watched this kid. He's got good size. He's got 4.4 speed, and yet always, you will not find a catch where this guy separates at all. Every highlight I saw of him, there was somebody draped all over him because he doesn't separate at all. Okay. Yeah. So, Lynch supposedly likes him. To me, it's all about what round. If you want to take this guy, and it's and he's undrafted, or it's the 7th round, and
I
you
take him
gotta
in the 4th or the 5th. I've liked him for
I wouldn't take him in the 4th or the 5th because the more I watched him, he had 12 drops in the last 2 years. He had an 8.7% drop rate this year. That's one of the worst. He's a receiver. Okay, you're talking about a receiver now. He's quick. He's got the physical ability to separate. And he did have some good games. He had 100 yards against San Jose State, 100 yards against NC State, 102 yards against TCU. He had 11 catches.
He was incredible against Colorado 2 years ago.
But the only thing is, he's good against man coverage, but he lacks separation speed. Even though he runs for the stopwatch, there's no suddenness. There's no quickness. He's got good work ethic. He's a Z receiver, but his speed, Dieter, is build-up speed. He's got 10-inch hands, 38-inch vertical, 1.58, 10-yard split, 4.44 40 time, high football IQ, good. He's got some route running talent, but he's got no quickness or fluidity into or out of the breaks. This guy played high school football at Deerfield Academy. That's like going to Exeter. That's a Massachusetts.
He's from Medicine Hat, Alberta.
Yeah, he's a Canadian kid, but he went to Deerfield. Deerfield is like a boarding school where you wear like a coat and tie. If you watch him, the route tree, he runs 3 routes. He runs vertical, post, corner, and shallow and intermediate crossers. That's it. No ins, no outs, no wheels. He's an amazing leaper, 84th percentile on the vertical, 85th percentile on the broad jump, second team all ACC. But to me, he doesn't have that toughness. He doesn't have quickness. He doesn't have burst or suddenness. He's got an ACL, PCL, MCL, meniscus injury. He's got what I would call build-up speed. No. Man, if they take this guy in a draft where there's Isaiah Bond, Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins, Savion Williams, if they Dante Thornton on day 3, Elijah Badger, Daquan Felton, if they Jordan Watkins, for crying out loud, Rock Taylor, if they wind up taking Aiyuk Ayomanor in like the 3rd round, I'm gonna lose it. I mean, once
Larry,
again,
he had 294 yards against Travis Hunter.
Stop drafting these Stanford players. Stanford's lousy. Stanford doesn't beat anybody. This guy, and everything that this guy does, it's inconsistent. There's no consistency. He might be able to run off the coverage and be that vertical threat, but he doesn't really have any route running ability. He fights the ball, Dieter. This guy's not a receiver. A receiver means you receive. A receiver means you catch. This guy fights the ball. The ball skills are not just, you see some guys, you're like, whoa, dude, this guy's got great ball skills. This guy's got the opposite of great ball skills. I don't know ball issues. I'm not sure what I would call that.
It's called cornerback hands.
Yeah, it's defense. It's like this guy it's like a special teamer, but I know that I get the feeling that they want him.
Well, I don't get that feeling. I feel
good.
I feel like it's John Lynch giving some gas to his program, and why not? Doesn't hurt him.
It is the only good prospect there, so it's not like,
Yeah. And then just call him what he is. He's a thicker Dante Pettis.
I think he's tougher than Dante Pettis, but I don't think he's nearly as fluid as Dante Pettis. He's big, strong, fast. He's big, strong, fast, but the fast he doesn't play to that 40 time. He doesn't run the full tree. He doesn't separate from corners. He drops the ball a ton. He's not a receiver.
He's so big and strong and fast and awesome, why doesn't he ever look big and strong and fast and awesome? I know, there are some guys who, listen, Stanford might be a good case study for this. There are some guys who aren't given the opportunity to kick ass at the college level because they're in the wrong program. I think the University of Iowa has a good track record with, holding back players who are athletic because it might scare the locals or something. I don't see that issue particularly with Stanford, though the talent around him might be limiting in that regard. But if he's so big and strong and fucking fast, why don't I ever see him look big and strong and fucking fast? And yes, listen, anytime there's a prospect who gets like some buzz and I'm like, and I get a little self, conscious because it's like, oh, I don't think I've watched that guy. Like one of those. They're like, oh, this, they're thinking about taking Aiyuk Ayomanor in the second round, and I'm like, oh shit, he played at Stanford. I don't think I know anything about him. That's not good. That kind of undercuts my bona fides. So what I do is I go into my text messages and I search like Stanford 83, or whatever, and I search. And yeah, I sent a couple texts out to people when he had the 294 three touchdown game against Colorado 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
But he was lighting up Travis Hunter, and then you watch it, and every single one of them is him like mossing Travis Hunter, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. The fact of the matter is, I watched more Stanford football than, frankly, anyone should have the past couple of years because they're a local team, and I'm trying to find something interesting to write about for my actual job and all these things. I didn't send a single text about this guy from that point on. He's been here the entire time. I'm watching Stanford football, maybe in a quad box, to be fair, but I'm watching Stanford football damn near every week. I didn't send a single text about this guy at any other point.
You're watching Stanford football every week?
If I had the opportunity to be sitting down and watching football, I get the YouTube quad box going, and I would default, right? If you're like, okay, I want to watch these two games at the same time, and I would default to a Cal game or a Stanford game because I run into a lot of people who went to Cal.
Cal had Teddy Buchanan. Cal had some golfers.
This is the thing. When I think about Cal, I can go like, oh, I knew there were NFL players on the field when I watched Cal. I did not get that sense whatsoever watching Stanford when they'd be in the bottom corner of my quad box. And you'd look down every now and then. If this guy was so great, why do I think he's not even the best receiver in the Bay Area this season? I'd take Nash over him. Nash, at least I saw do something a lot. Anytime you watch San Jose State, guess who was having a big game?
Dude, Nash.
And I don't even think Nash is that good.
No, he's not, but he's prolific. Here's Teddy Buchanan, by the way, from the Cal Bears.
What is this show? What are we doing? Can we get some oil?
SI Wildcats. Well, this is him working out. I mean, yeah, he's pretty jacked. I'll say that. But SI St. Ignatius Wildcat, that wouldn't be a bad mid-round
turn
pick.
off the safe search here. You're going to get demonetized.
Suddenly, we're getting a lot of women viewers.
Don't let Kyle Juszczyk know that we looked at that.
Cheeseball says, that's how my body looks. Yeah, thank you.
That's how I looked before I had kids.
Yeah, that was actually a young Larry Kruger working out. But here we go. Last thought.
I take Teddy Buchanan, by the way, 5th round.
Oh, I know he's a good player. There was a couple interesting.
Notice when he'd play football.
Oh, he's good. They got that other linebacker too that made tons of plays. I forget the guy's name. I don't think he's in the draft, but he's really good. Undersized guy. Back. Whoever the undersized
Hawaiian
guy.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was
great. They had 2 good linebackers. Wilcox, he can coach a defense.
Yeah, Wilcox, good coach for D. 2 interesting things today on the draft front. One, there's a lot of talk coming out of Jersey that the Jets are going to take Jackson Dart with the 7th pick overall.
Good luck.
Thought that was kind of interesting. The other one is, I don't know if you saw this, but dude, Jaylen Milroe put on a show in Tuscaloosa at the Alabama Pro Day, and a lot of people are saying that he reportedly moved up significantly on the list of quarterbacks that the quarterback needy teams are looking at. He put up a 4.37 40. Woo! Awesome. That's cooking, man. It's the 3rd fastest 40 time a quarterback is recorded in the history of the league. Only Michael Vick, who ran 4.33, and Lamar Jackson, who ran 4.34, ran faster than Milroe. Mm-hmm. Dieter, isn't Milroe like 220? He's pretty big. He's not. Yeah. He's not 200 pounds. He's like 220 pounds.
So, I'm glad
he
you
reportedly put on this is the more important, more amazing part of this report. He also reportedly put on a quote passing clinic. What?
Oh wow!
Is this the same guy I saw in Mobile? and supposedly was the most accurate NFL scouts have seen him yet in the pre-draft process. Milroe's thought to be the biggest boom or bust prospect in this year's draft class, according to one anonymous AFC scout. And the scout's quote was this: "He's an elite coaching staff away from making the Titans look silly for selecting anyone else with the first pick." Oh my God. I mean, that right there. I saw him at Alabama. If you caught the right moment, he looked amazing.
He started at Alabama.
Well, I mean, did you see him hook up with Isaiah Bond to beat Auburn in the back 100%. Of the end zone in the overtime of the Iron Bowl? If you saw that, you'd be like, dude, that was a freaking laser to the pylon, and it was with all the money on the table. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Jaylen Milroe. But then if you watched him in Mobile a couple weeks ago during the Senior Bowl week, he looked like a fish out of water.
He was spiking footballs 7 yards down the field.
He was hitting linemen with his passes. He looked terrible. To say the ball wasn't coming out on time doesn't even speak to it. He looked crude and unrefined, and he looked like the kind of guy that if you walked up to him after practice, you would have said, "Hey man, what kind of experience do you have at wide receiver?" Well, you know what I mean?
That's what
it's like he was so bad. But Dieter, 4.37 is cooking. That is really fast. And he's 220 pounds. Now we're kind of getting into the Anthony Richardson territory. Anthony Richardson was, 6'3", 245, and he ran, I think, in the 4.4s. And people were like, whoa. And we're like, hey, man, this guy's such an amazing athlete. We'll teach him quarterback. And it hasn't really happened in Indy. He's had some highlight moments for sure. But what do you think? Is this going to be a Cam Ward only first round quarterback, or is Shedeur going to be there? Is Milroe going to climb into the first round? Is Jackson Dart going to climb into the first round? It's like NFL teams are so desperate for quarterbacks that they will invent a franchise quarterback out of a workout. I mean, heck, that roll left, throw right made Zach Wilson's his whole draft process. That one play in his pre-draft workout. So what do you think about Dart? What do you think of Milroe as players, and then as draft entities? Where are those guys going to go?
Dart's going to get drafted because he's got all the physical traits that you're looking for. He's got some moxie. They rave about him at Ole Miss. I don't know why, considering that he's the reason they're not in the playoff and they didn't have a shot at winning a national championship, which they absolutely could have done given the talent on that team. Think about every level of that team was absolutely kick-ass, and their quarterback has all this talent, and then he threw away 2 games, easy, maybe 3, with just dumb. I mean, the game against Kentucky alone was just enough for me to never draft him under any circumstances. So that sounds very Jetsian that they'd be considering him at 7 overall. And if we're talking second round pick, no harm, no foul, right? Like, whatever. You lost on a second round pick. No one's going in on the Saints because Spencer Rattler isn't a good quarterback and was the worst rated quarterback in football last year because he was a second round pick. You didn't give up much for him. You took a risk. It didn't pay off. Whatever. You move on. You take some guy at 7 and it doesn't pay off. Everyone loses their jobs. Or you hope you land Brock Purdy with the last pick in the draft, and then everyone keeps their jobs. But I wouldn't take Dart, but I get why teams are going to, fall in love with him and think that he's the guy for them. Because as you said, there's 7 teams, maybe 6 teams that are just desperate for a quarterback, and they're looking for anything. I think Ward is going to go early. I don't think he goes 1. I think Shedeur gets a bad rap. There are plenty of things to criticize Shedeur about. I don't think he has the biggest arm. I don't think he's as mobile as maybe people project. I don't think people actually watched Shedeur Sanders. I think they listened to his dad talk and have created this idea of Shedeur Sanders that doesn't really exist as his father's son, but he is not that. He seems like a pretty class kid. Everyone I've talked to who's interacted with him can't stop raving about how much they enjoyed being around him. that he's confident in himself. I would sure hope so. Jackson Dart can say the same thing. I'm sure Cam Ward can say the same thing. You're a starting quarterback and you're going to be a first-round pick. You better have some confidence about you. Otherwise, how the hell did you get here and what the hell are you going to do once we pick you? But his issue, Shedur's issue, is that he might be a little limited in some of his overall traits. He can't throw it as far as other guys. He isn't as fast as other guys. But I think if he's in a good system, I think he's got more than enough between the ears to be a really good quarterback. I think he should be a top 10 guy in a quarterback class where I'm not sure anybody should go in the first round. I'm not the highest on Ward. I'm not. I think Shedeur is a second round player if we're having an honest draft grade evaluation. But that's not what the market is, right? That's not how this works. Quarterbacks get inflated, and they're going to get picked early. And I would have no problem with taking Ward. I would have no problem with taking Shedeur. I would have a problem with taking Dart, but he's going to get taken. I think Tyler Shugg out of Louisville is going to have a lot of love. I'm giving him a lot of love. That guy can sling it, and he's got some magic in him. I love watching him play. I think he has a chance to sneak into the first round, and I think there's going to be a team just fucking dumb enough to go out and say, hey, Jalen Milroe, you're our guy. And I feel bad because, again, Jalen Milroe is another guy who I've heard nothing but positive things about him off the field as a leader of men, as a professional from, day one, because he's been making good money at Alabama. He's a pro. And I don't like going in on somebody saying, oh, he's not going to be any good. But like, you can't unsee the downsides. You watch the highlights and you're like, this dude's incredible. You have to watch the downsides too. And his downsides are pretty easily transferable to the NFL level. And it's not going to have as much upside when you're dealing with NFL talent going up against him. So I wouldn't take the risk on him. And the fact that there's a bunch of NFL teams out there who are like, oh man, he was so accurate today throwing against air with no pass rush. Like if that's all you needed to see, that's why your team sucks, buddy. Because I got 2.5, 3 years of tape on Jalen Milroe and a great Senior Bowl where he does not look like he should be a starting quarterback at the NFL level, despite being unquestionably a S-tier caliber athlete. And if not for your racists for years and years and years constantly undercutting the actual quarterbacking ability of black quarterbacks and saying guys like Lamar Jackson, who is a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback because he could also slang it at a level that no one else could, on top of being, the greatest runner you've ever seen at that level, on top, Michael Vick before him and so many others. Because of that, now we can't say, I don't think that this guy should be playing quarterback. Because of that, it comes across as some sort of, we're impugning the color of his skin. I'm watching him play quarterback, and he could be a backup for me, and I'd be willing to take a risk on that. But I'm not handing over the franchise, and Anthony Richardson's a great comp. You took the risk on Anthony Richardson. Where does that leave the Indianapolis Colts? Signing Daniel Jones. That's what they're doing now. You think they'd take it back if they could? You bet your ass they would. Someone's going to do the same thing with Milroe, and I'll bet dollars to cents that there's going to be 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round, and there might even be 5 now that Milroe's doing it, because I think the hype on Shug is insane right now.
Oh, I think you think it'll be Shug. I think it'll be Ewers. I think Ewers has got a lot of arm talent there. All right, we got one last topic. We got over 3,000 people hanging out. Let's hit our quick supers because we got 12 of them, and then we'll roll. Going on year 8 and only one drafted Pro Bowl, All-Pro trenches player. Is the issue coaching, development, or is there a scouting issue? I think it's a scouting issue. I really do. I mean, I think they have good enough coaching. They haven't drafted a defensive lineman of note in a long time. And they're missing left and right. They've missed 10 times in the 3rd round. They missed 20 times in the first 3 rounds. I mean, you want to get mad at me and say, oh, Krueg's negative, whatever. I just read you facts. Those are facts. The Niners in this regime have missed 10 times in the 3rd round, and they've missed 20 times in the first 3 rounds. That and only that is the reason they're at where they're at. Okay, that's it. That's all.
I do think there's a philosophical issue at play too, which is that the 49ers have decided, and this is Kyle Shanahan specifically, has decided, and they openly admit it now, that Chris Foerster is more valuable than any player that they could bring in, and that Chris Foerster can take average and turn it into above average, and because of that, they don't have to allocate money or really any resources beyond Chris Forrester to the offensive line. And yes, if Trent Williams falls into their lap for the easiest trade in the history of the NFL, they will take Trent Williams. But everybody else, they can get by with just enough. They can get by with just enough. And the problem is when you keep playing the just enough game, sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes inflation requires more. And they just think that Chris Forrester can turn, he can polish up this turd every year in and year out, and I don't think it's the case anymore. You're seeing the deterioration with Brendel.
McKittrick.
I mean,
he's not McKittrick.
Even then, I mean, I don't even think. This is where I'm at. 2 kids and no sleep. What's the name of the Eagles offensive line coach?
The Eagles offensive line coach.
Southland.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Southland, and he's certainly not Dante Scarnecchia.
I mean,
doesn't
Niners
produce all pros.
Yeah,
so how
the
good
Niners
could he
had McKittrick forever, and they did it with less. But I mean, Forrester's not McKittrick; it's a different era, and they need some big time horses up front.
He's a good offensive line coach, but he's not of that caliber. And I would say the same thing for Chris Kursick. Like, he's a good coach. He's not a great coach because he just runs the same shit over and over and over again, and they're so ideologically rigid that they then fall into the same traps with player scouting and stuff, and they keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
Tony D, let me preface this by saying I'm a Dieter fan, but is he a Red Wings fan or is he a Maple Leafs fan? Mixed messages.
I am a fan of hockey. First and foremost, I love hockey so much. I don't get to talk about it in a professional sense because I also enjoy making money for my family. I don't get to do it, but I love hockey. And
there's a live stream going on talking hockey somewhere. It's slightly less,
and all 12 people, I'm sure, are very satisfied. I mean, listen,
a few less people over there, but they're still having a good time.
It's A-okay. So here's the thing. I grew up. I'll give you the short version, as if I've ever given a short version on anything ever. My head is very large. I cannot get hats that fit my head unless I get them from a specialty shop in Michigan.
What's your hat size?
I wear a 7 7/8, but it's also tall. So in order to get this unstructured dad hat, which is a look that I enjoy and frankly need at this juncture, I have to get it from the specialty shop. They make the 47 brand cleanup. They have it in 3X and 4XL. So I buy these hats, and it's sports teams logos. That's why they originally made them. So I just bought a bunch of the hockey teams for them. I have a couple Giants ones too. I think I have a Bears one even. I just did it. I bought this Maple Leafs one. I love spending time in Toronto. And the Red Wings one came around because I used to be a Blackhawks fan, and then I found out what they did. So now I can't be a Blackhawks fan anymore. But I literally have, as of today, like a Montreal Canadiens one coming and a Bruins one coming. I'm just going to get the original 6 sans the Blackhawks, rotate them through, and confuse everybody so that you get more super chats, Larry.
John Muniz, probably John and Kyle's last year. They won't be good.
This is a legitimate thing. I think I said it last week. I've certainly said it on my podcast. Now, if Aiyuk gets traded, this does fundamentally change. But the majority of people who are 49ers fans aren't with us right now, and they're not following David Lombardi or Grant Cohn on Twitter. They're normal people who get their news through ESPN push alerts and what they heard from a friend. So they're not noticing that 17 players are out and nobody's really come in. And so what they're going to think is, well, last year was our down year. We're bouncing back this upcoming year, because they're not keeping up with the transactions, because they're normal people. And they'll say, oh, good draft. Hey, everything's going A-okay. It sucks that Dre Greenlaw left, but sometimes you got to do stuff. And when they win 5 games next year, they're going to think, man, this coach kind of sucks. They've won 6 and 5, and the GM kind of sucks. And they won't realize that these guys have their hands tied behind their back, which is why Jed York needs to have a press conference before the draft to reestablish the expectations for this season, to tell everybody we're going to eat it, and it's my call. They won't do it. Not in a million years.
They're going to win way more than 5 games. John Muniz, might as well trade Kittle and Warner. This team's not winning anytime soon. Might as well get something for the 2 studs and give them a chance to win a ring. They did for Debo. They're going to keep those guys. Jay Cash, agree with Dieter. Next season will be much worse than expected, in my opinion. Sawyer Stewart. Anyways, the Giants are exciting. Ben Metal Ford. Arguably the best coaching staff in the NFL. DC says, here's $4.20. There you go. Thank you,
Who's
DC.
the best coaching staff in the NFL? The San Francisco 49ers?
John Muniz says, Niners need those same players you mentioned for trade. SRT says, Niners could draft a great draft. The real question is, will Kyle Shanahan play the rookies? Mustafa Pooney, IG, RP all started due to injury. No rookie won a job out of camp.
Do you think that's? I think that's going to be. It might be a Billy Bean, Art House situation. Well, you can't play Pena. We just traded him.
Well,
Kyle, we need you to play rookies.
Yeah, he's going to play.
Kyle, we need you to play rookies. Well, I don't want to play rookies. Well, you don't have any other players, so you got to play.
Exactly. You have to play rookies. Jamie says, Larry, if you were the GM, who's your number one pick?
Number one overall.
It depends what I need, but in this
If you're
draft,
the Tennessee Titans, who are you taking? Okay, how about this? I'll throw something else your way.
Give me 30 seconds.
No, Niners. There was a clerical error. The Niners don't have the 11th pick. They have the first pick. I don't know how it happened, but they threw an extra one on there. So the Niners somehow got the one pick through a weird whatever. They now have the one pick in this draft roster as it stands. Who are you taking?
Travis Hunter.
Not Abdul Carter?
No. I'm worried about Abdul Carter's foot. And I like Abdul Carter, but I'm taking Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter's the best corner and the best receiver in the draft.
I don't think he's the best receiver, but I agree with you on.
I think he is. He's special. Joseph Ernberg. If Brock was in this draft, where would he go?
Well, that's a loaded question because you don't know Brock, as in the Brock that has never played in the NFL, or like, hey, Brock, somehow you fell through the cracks and you have to go back into the draft, because you're taking Brock one overall if you know that Brock Purdy is a Super Bowl appearing quarterback at 25 years old. You're taking him one overall. That's one in the hand. But if it's Brock Purdy from Iowa State, who, just played his final year of college and all the stats were the same, like, he probably goes in the 7th round again because he went in the 7th round in the first place.
It's like, if it's based on what we know right now, I would say he's probably going to go in the middle of the first round. That would be my guess, middle of the first round. If he was in this draft based on what we know right now. Joseph Ernberg, early next season record, I guess 4-13.
Oh, no, I'm the optimist.
I think the 49ers are an 8-9 kind of an outfit with even a reasonable draft. I think there's enough there, and the schedule's bad enough that I think they can win 8 games. But it's all a projection because, once again, they say they want to be like the Rams. The Rams had 44 rookies when they turned over their roster. 44 guys were either drafted or undrafted rookies. 44. That's a lot. So I would say that they had that many rookies in camp. The Niners won't have that many rookies in camp, but it'll be a lot. I think they'll do well in the draft, but it won't be good enough.
The Rams also had the infrastructure of drafting 9 and 8
or something like that. That's
the Rams had, for the prior 6 years, despite not having a first-round pick in almost any of them, gotten 5 or 6 players out of every draft. Right? They'd take 12, but they'd get 5 or 6 every year. And these are guys who are clear starters, and in some cases, guys who are legitimate, all pro level talents. And when you stack that up year over year, you can say, yeah, shit, we'll just do 44 rookies in camp. That will fill the gaps. The Niners don't have that. They don't have that.
People are saying 7-10, 10-7. We'll see. There's a lot that has to happen between now and then. That is going to do it for us. We're 2 hours in exactly. There are almost 3,200 people still watching tonight. So if everybody could do me this one favor, if you guys can hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, that just helps more people in the algorithm find the stream. If you hit subscribe and click that notification bell, every time we go live, you'll just get an alert that we're going live, a little da-da-ding, and then you can join us. Of course, it's free of charge. But if you could hit like and subscribe, and then, of course, Dieter and Hutch have their own channel, and tell people, Dieter, where if they look you up on YouTube looking for your channel, to like and subscribe over there.
Yeah.
Where will they find it? What does the thumbnail look like, or what is the What is your design?
Dieter plus Hutch, and we have our famed mascot Sicko as our logo. Larry has a microphone. We have an old timey football player with a gold tooth. His name is Sicko, and he's our totem. We have up currently. We did a mock draft yesterday, full 7-rounder. Pretty deranged, if we're being honest about it. And then we also broke down. What did we break down? We broke down something. We did some breakdown. We did a draft breakdown. I assure you. We got quarterbacks and running backs coming up here soon. We're putting those in the can tomorrow. And then we have the Dieter and Hutch draft guide, which you want to talk about deranged.
When's that? Do I get a copy of that? I'll promote the hell out of that thing.
You will get a copy, Larry. And if you're an official Sicko on our channel, you'll also get a copy free of charge. And
I'll pay for it.
I know. We listen. We got to put the motherfucker together before we figure out how people are going to pay for it. I mean, we are in over our heads. The analysis and the insight and everything is like good. Like I'm feeling really positive about it. When you read it, you're like, oh shit, this is I dare so pretty good stuff myself. And I hate everything I write. So it must say something that Hutch is really bringing the goods. How we're going to get this thing out into the masses in this day and age of everything being easy to get into the masses, I have no flipping idea. But we'll figure it out. Maybe I'll just narrate it on a live stream for 9 straight hours or something.
Thanks to our sponsors, Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue you're going to find. Also, Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania is at 831-521-5264. And last but certainly not least, this show is sponsored by LearnKeys Upskill Academy, which is a brand new sponsor for the show. They're an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. So if you're underemployed, unemployed, not doing the job you want to do, looking for a career switch, whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, could be a different field.
You're laying it on a little thick demand here for me, Larry. You're speaking.
They offer over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your career. 37 years in the business, 200,000 students. They're placing 100 students every month in new jobs that are good, high-paying jobs. So check them out. The links are in the description for all of the sponsors. Like and subscribe if you would. Do that for Dieter as well. I'm back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., bright and early, West Coast with Damon Bruce. I'll also stream tomorrow, since it is a Friday, with Chase Sr. at 10:45. Niners Nightly tomorrow night at 6 o'clock on KMBR. John Dickinson will be our guest. And Dieter, when do you appear next? When you got anything going tomorrow? You're chilling. You're sleeping in.
No, I'll be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Has nothing to do with this. Hutch and I will put some stuff in a can. Got nothing to do with this. It all blends together. Every day in the NBA is Wednesday, and every minute of every day for me is 5 o'clock in the morning. It's fun.
There you go.
Have kids.
Yeah, exactly. Have kids. Enjoy kids. They're wonderful. And then they grow up and they want money. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Dieter. Thanks to all of you. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.